Hearty welcome back to our newest episode of Ask the Founder. Dear Simon, thanks for your time and always spending this time here in the Future Multiverse YouTube channel. That's a nice time. And last time we talked about the mass adoption and why Future Multiverse will be inside this mass adoption very fast. There are some questions that we got after this episode, and now we can go a little bit deeper to give some more details, some more practical examples. I'm very interested to hear them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the question. And yes, I can really just say the whole platform is built in a universal, let's say, multiversal way for any use case. So basically, the great thing is we are directly offering this platform to governments to digitize their entire nation. This just opens up all the different possible opportunities, or let's say use cases you can possibly have within a specific country. This could be tourism, this could be exhibitions, this could be museums, this could be experiencing and checking out real estate investment opportunities or land, for example, to buy. Specific events, this could be projects that want to be available, offered for experience and for investment opportunities, for purchases, products, services, assets of different kinds. Complete holistic approach offering a platform to anyone whose intent and a way of using the platform are in alignment with our value codexes, of course, as we mentioned in the other episode as well. But just some really exciting examples that I'm very looking forward to, in fact, is, for example, I can remember when I was back in school, for example, one time per year, basically as a class you made, for example, you had the experience of the year that everyone was looking forward to. It could be even if it's to a museum, everybody was looking forward to it because it was a physical activity that you were doing, basically, and it was outside the classroom. Yes. So now just imagine you can basically, in the everyday classes, for example, for schools, they can now, for example, they could go into the German museum, for example, which is a very exciting experience every time I was there, where you can learn about, history, about technology, history about so many different things. Imagine you could do this on a daily basis in different classes for youth, for children who are in school. So that just makes and
you don't have to leave the school. So this is very good for the teachers. They don't have to fear to lose anyone.
Yes, and I can imagine. I can remember the time where we all went to school basically with heavy school bags, for example. I didn't even leave the books in school basically under the desk. I basically took every single book that I needed for the day. I always carried it to school basically.
Same with me.
So you remember that too. So just imagine. And then there was I still remember, I think it was even before COVID time, basically many classes or many schools are adopting iPads, for example, where you now digitally access informations, different courses, study material, etc. And now imagine you can tap into with this iPad through the browser. It could be even controlled by the school. That, for example, this iPad is only used for only for this application, for example, for tourism, traveling to a country anywhere in the world, basically, that is on the platform, and then learning about their history, about their economics, about specific projects, technologies, solutions, and their demographics, anything basically. And then also about, of course, new future trends of the world, because one key question, of course, for students is, what am I going to do with my future? I went to, for example, I was in New Zealand in college, for example, for 1 year, which really inspired me so much because the teachers actually in school there, they really loved what they taught. For example, I really loved how a more exciting way of, let's say, teaching than it basically was that I experienced it, at least in Germany in many ways. And what I also loved is the students or the people I was in school with in New Zealand, for example, they had a lot more clear, let's say, direction of where they want to go, what they want to do after they finish school, and what they're learning for. They had a lot more, let's say, clearer orientation. Now, imagine you have a technology like this, and you can really, this was also one of the reasons why we've built this platform, in fact, that get inspired. They can go into the platform and they can get inspired, about what's actually happening in the world, what, potential also problems are there to solve, what solutions are already there, and what excites me the most to actually spend my time, my future in, what really is interesting, and what jobs are available. How is the world changing right now? Just with the use of AI, the whole world is changing, and also job opportunities are changing completely. But that doesn't mean that there's not new opportunities created with AI as well. So now let me get an example now. 71% of the people in the population in Africa is youth. It's many young people. Many of them that are still, struggling also to afford school if it's not, let's say, available for free. Several African countries, of course, they also have it available for free. But imagine you have now with a new technology that is really transforming the way of how business is done, economy is built, history is shaped, how projects can be experienced, countries can be experienced, etc. When this is made available for youth, they get a tool into their hands that really excites them and that they can really use in many different ways. To get inspired, to learn, to study, and then also to start their own business. For example, a new idea that they have. They can present it, they can approach investors, they can actually offer it for sale and then scale it. And even doing that, contributing, just take as an example, somebody, for example, in Africa, they can now contribute to the entire economy and the future of the nation. Now, that's one specific example. I'm not sure if you've watched the movie, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind.
Yes, I
I'm
know
not sure
it.
if you watched.
Was a tip of you once.
Yeah, oh, brilliant. Yeah, actually, this is actually about a boy in Malawi who had troubles even to where their parents basically had troubles to even afford the school for this boy, just to mention this quickly. And then he had to leave the school. But when he left the school, basically, he took one physics book. He did this unknowingly, basically, and he learned everything in this physics book. Now, then this specific area in Malawi, they faced a very difficult time. And let's say there was no water available, basically, or a dry season. And then basically the entire village and the entire area region was struggling. Everyone who has not watched this movie, please watch it. It's brilliant, really heart touching. And then this boy, with what he learned from the physics book, he basically, although nobody basically he believes him, and even his parents are basically
Skeptical, yes.
skeptical and creating a bad time for him. He basically invents, or let's say creates a water wheel, basically a windmill that harnesses basically the wind and then creates electricity to fuel a pump, basically, and then transport water to the fields, and then basically saves his entire village and creates an entire inspiration for the country. And now even inspires us. So it's brilliant how
this is something Future Multiverse has been developed for. So to get these people away from problems without money, so now they can get access through the Future Multiverse to all these things. Yes. And this is a perfect example for what Future Multiverse is being done for, and why it will get to mass adoption very early, because there are so many examples, especially if you mention Africa, where these people do not have the money or where they are 20 kilometers away from the next school or longer. So now they can get access to all the wisdom of the world inside the Future Multiverse. Yes.
Africa has 1.5 billion people and 71% of them are youth. We have digitized several African universities, for example, where now we're making this accessible. Now someone from a young person in Malawi can now access all of the different solutions or all the different environments and everything that is on the platform. You know, they get the sense of they're really part of the future rather than the past. So they actually through our platform, part of a movement that is really bringing together solutions and projects that are really building things that are for the future and creating benefit and value. And they just get a tool into their hands that opens up a complete world of possibilities and opportunities for them. And this has always been actually one of the reasons also why we've built this platform because the world they're living in is filled with so many crises, conflicts, problems. And it's time that all the solutions are brought together and the people who are ready to take action, actually using the energy to build solutions rather than support the other way. As I mentioned now, the example of education and the making it accessible for youth in this specific example that I made. There's so many different other examples that this can be used for. Now, just imagine the solution would have been available when COVID pandemic was at its peak or in its development. So many businesses, so many governments, so many individuals suffered from that, and also so many people were not even able to go outside their own home or own house, were not able to execute their jobs that they did. And now through our platform, for example, all the businesses could have not only a 2D website for basically offering their products, but have entire 3D VR workspaces where the people can come together. Not just via Zoom, but then also we have several examples on the platform of great technology partners who said, they suffered the most from